We're live. Hey Dom, we're live. Funny thing is people see that. All right, hey everybody. We're back for the actual episode 10 of This Disc is Great with Steve and Nate. We called it episode 10 last week, but my math was wrong. That was episode 9 with the Trace. Steve, what do we think of the Trace?
Oh man, the Trace is a great disc. I might put it in the bag, but it's great for fighting some nice headwinds. People with medium to kind of bigger arms, they're going to have a great utility disc, if not one of their best long distance drivers with it. I thought it was great for tunnel shots, or if you got a decent fairway, just rip it, and it's going to go.
Yeah, it's like a straighter Wraith for me. I like my Wraiths a lot, so it flies very similar. It doesn't have as much fade at the end, which is good in some cases. I like the disc a lot. I was really surprised by the first driver from Streamline, which is one of Axel's. Which, speaking of the Trace, if you missed our video yesterday, we have a whole bunch of new things coming out in the next couple of days. And the Trace is one of those. It got a really sweet special edition stamp. I can't remember if they were saying an Ace of Trace or Trace the Ace or something like that. But this really sweet MVP trifoil, Streamline trifoil stamp. This is the special edition stuff I was looking for from MVP. Super sweet, super awesome. These will go live on the website on Friday. Check them out, all sorts of colors. That trifoil stamp is awesome. Along with that, they have 2 new discs releasing, Steve. We went out and tossed these today. Steve, what did you think of the Mayhem and the Teleport? Just real quick.
Bombers. I was thrown into the headwind, Nate was thrown in the tailwind. For me, I liked how they flipped up, and it wasn't an extreme hyzer I was throwing them on, and they just kind of went to flat. I was very impressed. Kind of a big rim driver, but I got some really nice rips on them, and I was just like, dude, these things crush. Across the field.
They've got enough turn to get you some really good distance, but enough fade that they're not going to flip over too much on you. Yeah. Both of our first reactions was very Shrike-ish.
Yeah.
And if you go back and watch a review of the Shrike, we can let you know what we think of that. And the fact that both of us have multiples of them in the bag, we like these a lot too.
Yep. And
they're releasing with some really sweet trifoil special editions as well. This Mayhem is a Skullboy edition, super sweet. Skullboy always does great art. And the trifoil just makes it really pop and look awesome. Teleport's got a special edition too. It makes sense with the Teleport name, but not quite as cool as the Mayhems. We'll be doing these in a couple of weeks, and we like them a lot. Steve, what other new stuff did we toss today?
Prodigy just put out new discs themselves. They're in the 400 plastic. They got the X line, so you got your X2 and the X4. So the 2, their Prodigy does 1 is their most overstable. You go down from there. So the 2 wasn't the beefiest of discs I've ever thrown, but
it's not an X1.
No, it's no X1, but it's not a D1 either. I thought it had a straighter line, even with the hyzer finish. I just thought it fought just as well as what you'd expect a 2 to be. But the X line is cool. Like it's really got some great glide. I would say, the hybrid stuff. I was expecting it to be something like that, just super beefy. No, yeah. This is a great. It felt great.
And I don't know the exact speed on these, but they feel like 11s to 12s, a little slower than the D series. Yeah. The X4 has some really nice flip to it. It's got an interesting rim. It's a lot flippier than the X2, like you would expect it to be, but it's not as flippy as It's not as flippy as a D4, which is what I thought. Yeah. It's got some decent fade on it. Now, one of my personal favorites of what we threw today are these brand new West Side Fortresses. These will release on Friday as well, I think. This is everything I wanted my Culverins and my Convicts to be. Super, super great straight fairway driver with some pretty good fade at the end. I was able to throw these flat, straight, and then they hyzered out really great at the end. Great fairway, just a step below my distance drivers, but above my mid-ranges. These are awesome. And I heard Paige Bjerkes, when she took hers out for the first time at I think it was Peter Pan, she aced 2 out of 3 holes with it. So, I mean, you can't go wrong with that. But yeah, it's like a 10-speed, 4 glide, 0 turn, 3 fade. Really solid fairway driver that we'll get to in another couple of weeks. All right, Steve, what discs are we actually doing this week?
All right, so Nate and myself, we went out to check if some discs were great. And the discs that we had this week were the new Dynamics Disc Criminal and the Legacy Fighter. These are both brand new discs. These things, designed to fight wind, it's exactly what they're doing. We didn't have a whole lot of wind we were throwing with when we were throwing, so we didn't get to see how much it would hold up into a 15, 20 mile an hour headwind. But what we saw, they're true to their word. These discs will fight a headwind, or they're gonna just be really nice distance shots where you're like, I can't go past this OB line, or I'm going to get a stroke. I'm going to throw this, and I know I'm not going to go past, and it's going to sit once it gets there.
So before we get too far into some descriptions and some numbers, people are really loving the outfit, Steve. Where did you find this ridiculously crazy outfit?
Well, there's really only one store that's going to sell this awesome outfit, and that's Walmart. I saw it and I had to have it. You know, I'm big on the flag stand, flag die, and I figured, hey man, let's go big.
And Trevor, this is a Royals shirt, best baseball team in the world, sometimes. Let's see, anything else before we get, and guys, make sure you like, comment, and share this video. We are giving away a Fusion Criminal, which just released like this week. Actually, they haven't actually released yet. I can't sell them to you, but I can give this one away. Fusion Criminal, an Icon Fighter. Steve, why don't you show off the fancy stamp on that Icon Fighter? And then a first run Lucid Criminal. All of those are being given away. All you got to do is like, ask us a question, comment. We'll come up with some fun ways to give one of those away. All of these are getting given away here really soon. Hey Ricky, nice to see you. Okay, what about footwear? I don't know what that's about. Austin, you asked this to hammer well. We didn't film any tomahawks or hammers with these, but these are awesome tomahawk discs as far as I'm concerned. Let's see if we got anything for. All right, let's. Steve, you got the descriptions. Why don't you go ahead and read off what DD says these are, and I'll show these up on camera. Cool.
So starting off with Criminal.
And this is super cheesy.
These are good.
The man. Criminal DD is getting cheesier and cheesier with their comments.
I like it. Dynamic Disc says this about the Criminal. Bad company corrupts good morals, has been proven through the ages. However, Dynamic Disc is bringing you a criminal that you're going to want to get to know. With more glide than the felon and more stability than the convict, this criminal is exactly what you need to assault your high scores. This fairway driver that will be able to trust to cover the ground necessary without giving up the stability you need for confident throws. Befriend this criminal and you'll start to do some bad things to your course.
Some bad things to your course. All right, so as you can see right here on the disc, the speed of the Criminal is 10. It's got a glide of 3, a turn of positive 1. Most discs have a negative turn. This is a positive turn. So even at its fastest, it's still going left for a right-hand backhand throw or reverse if you're lefty or flicking it. And a fade of 4. So this thing is super, super beefy. We'll see exactly how beefy it is in a second when we get to the video. Steve, what about the Fighter? What can you tell us about the Fighter?
Legacy says this about the Fighter.
And they have a sweet first-run stamp.
Introduced last year's Battle of the Aces, the Fighter is the newest mold from Legacy Discs. The Fighter has been designed for maximum overstability and to fight through a headwind. As a speed 10, the Fighter will give you the distance and confidence you need in high winds. It will fight for you.
Almost as cheesy, but not quite. So its numbers are 10, a speed of 10, a glide of 4, so a touch more glide than the Criminal says it has, a turn of 0, and a fade of +4. So really similar. And then let's do a side-by-side here of the profiles. So they got fairly similar profiles, really similar flights, and let's see what they throw like. All right, let's get in here, nice and close on the video screen, and tip it on down so we can get a better view. All right, let's check out and see. Move your foot, Steve. Come on,
guys.
All right, before we do that, I'm going to check and make sure we don't have any questions or other comments we need to address. Chris Bradley says, "Ooh, me like." Wine sounds like a good get out of trouble disc. Yep.
Yeah.
Chris Lewandowski would like to apprehend that criminal, please. Okay, what fairway? Okay, so Kyle asked, what fairway driver will we compare this to? Steve, other than themselves, what discs do you think these really compare closely to?
I think the criminal and the fighter tend to have just a little more glide than my Firebird. Like mine's pretty flat, and I just don't get anything with my Firebird. So that would be one. Yeah, the Felon is pretty close, but still, it's close.
I think these are both beefier than that.
Yeah.
Like, the only thing I've thrown that's close is like a Nuke OS, which is faster, but same kind of overstability. A brand new Stiletto. But
those
again,
are drivers.
Those are distance drivers.
They've compacted this.
Yeah, so this is a little slower. Maybe an old school Max, a Metal Flake Max would be really close. Same kind of numbers. I have not thrown a lot of discs this beefy. All right, and again, make sure you are liking, commenting, and sharing this video. Get more people on here, and then we will be able to give these away to some lucky winners as we go. All right, let's get into our videos here and see what this disc flies like. All right, up first I think is the Fighter with Steve.
So other than having to get out of the way of the camera, I'm basically throwing this as hard as I can. And
that's pretty flat. Like, that came out fairly flat,
yeah.
if you can see on the release.
I couldn't even believe it got that far to the left before it finally hyzered out, guys. This thing means business. This is definitely get out of trouble shot. This is perfect for, you got to go around something, you got to go up over something. And then I wish we had a really big headwind to try it out, because I knew it was still going to fight. I'd like to see the distance we would have got from it.
I mean, this thing, they both do one thing and one thing well, and that's fade. For Steve's left-handed. If that confuses any of you on the flight charts, Steve's left-handed, so they go right for Steve, and for me, they go left, and quickly, and they want to get there. And so a lot of you guys ask us if they skip. Skip really depends on angle the disc hits, and if like a wider rim driver is going to get more skip because of the wide rim. The angle that these are generally going to hit on are going to produce these big flare skips if you're throwing it somewhat flat. Let's take a look at the next one. I think I got this on pretty much a spike. So yeah, this you can see this is my release point. It's pretty hyzer, threw it pretty wide and high. Held that hyzer obviously, and so I got a little more of a bounce than I got a skip because I hit on a spike line straight up and down. And again, this is the Fighter. Second shot with the Fighter. Holds that hyzer line, no flip in this disc at all. None whatsoever. Jennifer Pierce, she wants to know what the weights are on the discs we throw. Steve, what are we generally throwing when it comes to weight?
We want to keep it as consistent as possible. Sometimes we don't get the exact weight that we're looking for, which is max weight of 175. I think the Criminals were like 173.
Yep, 173
and
on
then
this Criminal.
We did get a 175 Fighter, but we're definitely staying above 170 for these videos. Sometimes we just don't get those in the shipment, but we got lucky enough with the Fighter, and as you can see, it sure acts like a max weight disc.
Yep. Let's see what the criminal looks like on a pretty flat hyzer line.
That one actually stayed flat for a while. But then, you know, this is like 100 feet, and then the next 190, it is hyzering out for me. That's another full power rip, guys.
Yeah, the
I'm
290,
really trying.
The 290 distance is a little deceiving because that's like 200 straight and like 120 right. So it's not like he threw it 200 feet straight down a tunnel. It went 290 feet way right. Super beefy, big flare, skip again. You have to get these discs to go anywhere. You have to try to turn them. On a flat shot, they go way left. So again, there's shots where you need that. You need to get around a corner on a woods course. We had a hole at a course we played this weekend that was a 90-degree angle. If you could get this to the corner, this is the disc you want to hit that corner with. Super reliable. Chris asked us if there was any wind during our field work. Steve kind of mentioned that a little bit. It was a little bit of a breeze, maybe 5 miles an hour at the most. Nothing like these discs are made to fight, but I can guarantee you these are the discs that'll save you in the headwind. Mike Jost is going to be our first winner because I need to give one of these away. You're going to win the Fusion Criminal, which we'll talk about in a minute. You win this pink 174 Fusion Criminal is all yours. Mike Jost wants to know what program we're using. I just wanted to see your release. Mike, we just filmed with a standard camera. I'm not even sure what it is. I think it's in Canon.
Yeah.
And then I'm editing the videos in ProPresenter, Adobe ProPresenter, to fix up some of the lighting issues and making it look pretty. And then I'm doing the tracing and the effects that I put in Adobe After Effects. It's just a simple stroke effect. I make a mask and put the stroke effect on it, throw in some keyframes. It's pretty simple, just tedious.
Yeah, you guys can make highlight videos too.
Yeah, it's not nearly as hard as you would think it is. I tried to make it too hard when I started, but it's really simple. All right. So Trevor wants to know how this would compare to a beast or a turn.
All right, Trevor.
Simple answer is it doesn't.
No. Nope. If you rip on a turn, it's likely to flip over. You rip on the criminal, it's not turning over.
So let's look at that. Let's which disc is this? This is the fighter. So this is me getting the fighter pretty flat. Actually, a little turned over. That's probably on like this release. Coming out of my hand, just a little bit of an angle. And again, ripping on it, throwing it hard. Anything over 250 with either of these discs is a rip.
Yep.
I threw that pretty hard and flat. If you guys watched our videos from last week, the trace would have flipped over a little bit and faded out and got us about 375 on the same kind of a line, same kind of a rip. So would a beast. If you go back and watch our Shrike video, that's fairly close to a stable turn. These guys are going left. Let's see if we get a little bit more of an angle. Yeah, this is the fighter again.
That's a big aim.
Yeah, that is. I'm throwing a roller with most discs if I throw it on. That's at like a 45-degree almost angle. Let's let that load up. Cranked it over. It turned a little bit for me, but then it just right here, boom.
I wouldn't
goes.
even call it a turn. I would say he just directed it that way.
Yeah.
And then that positive turn is like, nah, dude, let's go this way.
Yeah. To get any turn out of this disc, I'm forcing it over super hard. Let's let that video finish out. Oh, maybe it was finished. Let's back up a little bit. So yeah. If you look, again, that's super hard angle. I'm forcing it over. If I'm throwing that with one of my Shrikes, that's definitely going right and probably rolling. So these have so much overstability. These are not your beginner level discs. These are not your new players getting distance discs. These are very much advanced players discs, placement shot discs, very specialty shot discs. And let's look at the criminal on a similar line. That's even more Annie. And Steve thought he was going to catch that. And
I thought it was going to fade a little harder.
And it went away. So this is going a little bit right, but only because I am on that sucker at definitely a 40, like that release angle is here. That's a good 45 degrees. I got it to go right for maybe 150 feet, and then it flips over and goes left. And again, ripping on it, 335, I'm pretty proud of with the Criminal. Like, that's max distance for me on that sucker. And again, that went over Steve's head, and he's a good 20 feet left of the cones, and it ends a good 50 feet. He's a good 20 feet right of the cones, and it ends a good 50 feet left of the cones. So it's a lot of movement. So let's look at it on a flick line. This is the Criminal.
That's a lot of ante for me. I thought I was going to, that's basically, Trevor, if I was throwing my beast at this angle, that's a forehand roller. If I was throwing a turn at this angle, that's a forehand roller. This is not turning over at all. It's basically, it's holding this angle till here. And then as soon as that, it flattened out, and then it says, bye, I'm turning over. I'm coming back down to the ground. This thing, for 264, that was basically as far as I was throwing it backhand. So, and look at that angle. Like, these discs.
That angle right there.
Basically, these discs are the one disc you put in your bag because you know it's going to fight the wind. It's going to go into a spot where you know you're not going to turn over with this disc. I would say this is a great utility for someone who's beginning. They can have just one disc that they know what it's going to do. A lot of times you're going to pick up a disc and you're like, oh, I think this will do this. This disc, nope, you know exactly what this is going to do.
Yeah, and it's not going to be your every hole disc. It's not going to be the disc you're throwing for distance. It's going to be in your bag for specific shots. I've got a couple of really beefy felons in my bag for the same kind of shots. This is even more overstable than that. Let's take one last look at one last video here. This is the Fighter on a flick. Almost as steep of an angle as Steve had, not quite. I didn't get this one high enough to really get a lot of good motion out of it. But again, it kind of, I put the turn on it, I forced it over, and whoop, nope, it's going right. So it's a great, if you're one of those guys who mash anti-flicks, this is a good disc for you to be a shorter disc than your Destroyers or your Enforcers or your Bosses. This is a shorter version of that. Again, really overstable. So before we talk about it too much, check out the UDisc app. All those distances you saw were measured with the UDisc Measure Throw app. The UDisc does a lot of cool things like measuring throws with GPS. It uses your GPS to find courses close to you, which is great when you're traveling. Scorecards that auto-upload to keep, like I've got stats on like 30 rounds right now. Great app, totally worth the $5 for the pro account. They hooked us up with some for the store, so we're going to keep shouting them out so we can do our distances. So, Steve, somebody asked us about tomahawks before. We threw a couple of those in our earlier film session that didn't work out a lot. How does this fly for a tomahawk shot?
Basically, the amount of torque you're putting onto that overhand throw, this is the disc that you're going to see. It wants to carry in that straight line before it really starts to flip over and go for the crash. And even after it flips over, I felt like it still kept pushing forward. I thought it's almost like it was made for that.
Yeah. And so when I throw my tomahawks, I'm throwing at a pretty steep angle, and I want it to be an overstable disc allows it to flip over all the way and then crash out on an edge. The more overstable a disc is, the more reliable it is for me on those lines. And I was throwing these dead straight at the end of the flight. So super controllable, we'll flip the opposite way on a thumber. And these actually are thin enough that I could probably still thumb them.
Yeah.
I throw a lot of like Enforcers or Defenders or Excaliburs for my tomahawks. And those rims are too big to get my thumb on for a thumber. So usually you see people thumbing like triple X's or Firebirds or enemies from Legacy. This has thin enough rim you can still thumber it. for those over-the-top shots, and they're going to be super reliable. One shot that I saw a guy using his criminal for this weekend that I had never thought about was he was forehand rolling his criminal. So he was throwing it onto the ground like 20 feet away at the steep angle. And the overstability of this disc, it's fast enough and got enough of an edge that it rolls really well, but the overstability lets it fall out sooner, so we can control the distance on this roller a little better. He parked like 2 or 3 holes in a row with it. It's a great get out of trouble shot, a great control shot. You see a lot of the pros throwing rollers in certain situations. So apparently this is a great forehand roller disc that I didn't know until I saw it this weekend. Let's look and see what other questions we got. The next question I read, I haven't looked yet. The next question I read is going to get the Icon Fighter. You can autograph it for it if you want or not. And I swear it's just grass stains on the disc. It looks awful, but it's just grass stains. All right. All right, Keith Stewart, this isn't related to the discs, but we're going to ask it anyway, and you have won this Icon Fighter. Is there a course that is so hard to play that you won't even go to? There's some conditions that play into that. There's a course here in town called Hummel Park. You've heard us talk about it a lot. It's a great course. It's super technical, super tough. I probably avoid it some in the summer when the nettles get this high and everywhere. If we don't take it as a club, and if us in the club don't do a good job of taking care of that park, it's not because it's hard, it's because it's really uncomfortable to play. I'm
borderline miserable.
Yeah, like the course is hard, don't get me wrong, but it's not worth playing that hard of a course if my legs are shredded at the end of it from nettles. So that's one. Any courses that you think of, Steve?
That's the only one off the top of my head, just because it's also, you're throwing in that tall of grass, you're likely going to lose a disc, and nobody wants that.
Similar to that, Opie Lake in Emporia, Kansas, or in Opie, Kansas, I suppose, is one of my favorite courses, but I'm probably never going to play it. It's 4 hours away for one, but I'm probably not playing a ton of casual rounds there, because there's 8 holes where water's in play, 3 of them where you're carrying water with a really small landing zone. Yeah. So there's several holes out there. If you watch the GBO, the commentators are like, yeah, in the practice round I skipped this because I didn't want to lose this. Because there are a couple where it's like you're carrying water for 275 feet, you have a 30-foot landing zone, then there's more water. So something like that, more from a why lose a disc in a casual round standpoint.
So who won that?
So that went to Keith Stewart.
Keith Stewart.
All right. So Steve, I'm going to look for a couple more questions, and we're going to close with something to give away. Josh Chapman wants to know what's new that's close to a Gladiator for a forehand. For one, the Gladiator is only like 4 months old, so it's pretty new. Steve, how do these compare to the Gladiator? We've thrown both of those for this review now.
Gladiator definitely has more glide. It does not have that positive turn. I was throwing at least 50 feet farther with the Gladiator. Kind of makes me think you didn't throw the Gladiator yet, man. I think it's a great forehand disc. Yeah. If you have...
So these, to finish comparing these real quick, these are a little slower and more overstable. The Gladiator is really overstable, but it's easier to throw straighter for a little longer, and it doesn't have quite... if I throw it on the same angle that I threw these on, it's going to hold that angle a little longer and slowly crash out. Still really overstable. These are crazy. All right, any other discs that have come out recently you compared the Gladiator to, sidearm-wise? This came out before it, but it's really close to a Defender.
The Macbeth. For a slower arm, a Macbeth Destroyer is gonna be what it's got glide. Don't get me wrong, but these Macbeth Destroyers, man, they are crashing out. Yeah.
We've got a couple questions on what our favorite putters are. A little off topic for the video, but we'll go ahead and run down what we putt with. See what do you putt with these days?
Right now, I'm putting with the 300 plastic by Prodigy, and that's the PA3. So I've got a bead on my putter. I started off with the Wizards. I felt like they beat up too fast. They started to lose shape for me, and I was just like, I don't got time for this. So they got a good glide, but yeah, if I had to say, PA3 is probably one of the best putters out there.
So I've been putting with a Fusion Judge for like 3 or 4 years. I don't remember why, but like 2 weeks ago, I put those away and started putting with my classic Judges again. And just feel more comfortable with them. Yeah, I changed my grip up, and I feel more comfortable with the classic ones now. They're going in a little better. We tested out the Electron Pilots from Streamline last week. We only threw like 10 putts a piece with it, but we were all like, ooh,
we were like,
this
oh
feels
man,
good.
this is nice.
So I might pick up a couple of those and try them out. Putters are the one thing I'm hesitant the most to switch out and try new, but I like those a lot. But the Judges are great. Check those out. They come in all sorts of plastics, whatever you like. They've got it. All right, let's see. Chris Lewandowski, you've been begging for a while. We're going to let you win this Fusion Criminal. You asked a really great question. Chris wants to know what, we've used the word utility disc a lot in this video. What do we really mean by utility disc? So when I say utility disc, what are you thinking of, Steve?
I'm saying get out of trouble, man. Get out of trouble. You're out of position. There's only one option you've got. It's the hole where we were saying it's 90 degrees. Like you've got to go 200 straight up, and then it's another 150 through a tunnel down a small slope. I didn't get all the way up to the corner. I threw it like a chump, man. My one option was a forehand, an Ania forehand, and I picked an overstable disc that I knew I could try and get some distance with it, and that it wouldn't turn into a roller. And that was a utility shot for me, where I was just like, I have to get in the fairway. There's no over-the-top shot. I could have tried a roller, but I'm not a big roller. Generally, when I'm using the term utility disc, I'm talking about a disc that, it's not an every shot disc. It's not my go-to, like I know what this does. I'm going to throw this for max distance, or I'm going to throw this for pinpoint accuracy. A utility disc is a special disc that does one thing for me. It's got one shot, one purpose. Like my strikes, I can throw flicks, I can throw turnovers, I can throw flat, I can throw hyzer flips. My go-to drivers, and then like my drifter, my fairway driver, which we'll do that in a couple weeks. It's pretty sweet. Similar thing, I can throw all kinds of lines with it. A utility disc is in your bag for a shot. I've got a glide in my bag from Discraft. It's in my bag for really sharp turnovers. That's all it does. I can't do anything else with it. It's a big turnover disc. I've got a couple overstable felons that are in there for the beefy wind shots. Like if I need to go spike hyzer around something, or say my Justice. My Justice is a utility mid-range. It does one thing. It goes really hard left. So it's for those special situations where I really need that. So when we say utility disc, it's like a trick shot disc, a disc that's in your bag to do specialty shots that you need it to do, but it's not your go-to driver mid-range that can do a lot of things. Basically, I've got a really flat Firebird in my bag, which Criminal, flat top Firebird, you're looking at the same kind of thing. I throw it maybe not even once a week. I've got a pretty good routine of the courses that I'm playing. This weekend, there was this gap that I had to hit. I knew I could hit, and I knew the grass was long enough that I wasn't going to do a crazy skip, but I knew it would be able to hold up through this headwind, and did exactly that. I had a 5-foot putt. I did make it.
That's questionable sometimes.
But I trusted the disc. It's basically, there's zero second guessing yourself, because you're like, there's no way I'm turning this over. There's no way I'm going to go long with this disc. There's no way I'm going to get a... You might get a ridiculous skip once in a while, and then you're just like, what, really? But most of the time, you know what's happening. You're controlling what's going to happen because you chose a specific disc to do a specific thing.
And so like those discs might not come out of your bag every round. They might not come out of your bag for 3 or 4 rounds, and a lot of times they don't come out unless I shank a drive way off the fairway at Hummel and I need to do some sort of screwy shot. So they're not every hole go-to discs. They're just to get you out of situations or to pull some things off. It's just something. There's a couple weird holes at the courses we played this weekend where there wasn't great lines. Like I threw my justice on like a spike hyzer over a lake to come way back left onto a hole. Yep. I couldn't do that with any other disc, and so it's very, again, specialty shots, things you need to do that it's going to do that one thing. So Steve, as we wrap up here, we've got we did the fighter and the criminal, really similar discs. If you had to come up with some differences between the two, what's a little bit different about each of these? We'll get to the fusion criminal in a minute, but we threw these in the videos. How would you kind of compare these guys?
I think I got more distance with the criminal, and that's not saying a lot, but I felt it just had a touch more glide, even though it says it's got that positive turn. The fighter, I liked how it felt in the hand. I really liked that Icon plastic. I would say because there's the difference in plastic, that's a big thing for me. When it's wet, when it's hot, I like the grip of that Icon plastic versus...
It does have really great grip.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that, but it really does.
I felt like forehanding the fighter was more comfortable, and I don't forehand a lot, but I felt like the forehand for the fighter was more comfortable. I got
just
some
a touch thinner.
I got some decent sized hands, so that's not saying a whole lot for the average person, but I definitely would say the fighter's more overstable. Technically more, like I would probably trust it more, even into a big headwind, which we did not find out what it's like in a crazy headwind, but we saw...
They're so overstable, they're not going to be very much different than what you just saw, honestly. The wind isn't going to affect these hardly.
I doubt it. I highly doubt it.
And I agree, these are almost identical discs. Like you probably don't need both in your bag, you need one or the other. They're going to do almost exactly the same. For me, I thought the fighter, I was able to keep it just a bit straighter for just a bit longer. This, actually, we did get more distance out of the criminal generally, but I feel like I was able to keep this straighter a little bit longer. So again, that's what are you looking for the disc to do? They're both great utility discs. They serve their purpose. If you need that super overstable disc, these are great options. These are both on the website, available right now. I still have like 30 first-run criminals. I don't know how I still have this many left, and I've got stock stamp Lucid ones that are going to be on the website really soon. And then, last thing before we wrap up, we'll get to a couple more questions here in a second, but we just got the Fusion criminals in a box today. I think they were released Friday, but I'll probably get them on the website really soon. Steve, how did the Fusion plastic today compare to the Lucid plastic?
Fusion is less overstable.
In general.
In general. I saw much straighter flights, but it still had the nice finish. Don't get me wrong there. I was able to throw it farther than I could either of the two discs. I love the Fusion plastic. I absolutely love how it feels. Forehand,
it
backhand.
feels close to the Icon.
Yeah. Even into the headwind that I did have today, it held up extremely well, but like I'm just saying the Fusion plastic is going to go straighter for me for a longer time, just being that little touch less overstable. I'd like to see how these discs beat in to say how many trees can you hit before.
I mean, to be fair, this is still really overstable, and when who won this one? Keith, when Keith gets it, it's fairly beat up.
It looks beat up.
The other videos that we threw it in was out at the field that turned out to be really, really, really blurry. We hit a couple benches and some concrete with it, so it's got some good nicks in it, but it's still beefy. Like it didn't lose anything.
Don't.
But yeah, so the Fusion, I agree. We were probably getting 20 extra feet out of the Fusion than we were the Lucid. When I put it on those big anti lines, it held that a little bit longer before still crashing out really solidly. So it's really similar, but it's not quite as, oh my god, crazy overstable. Really solid discs. So, Josh Chapman just asked what disc we think he should replace a flash with. Have you thrown a flash?
I've held a flash, but no, I've yet to throw a flash.
Which you do need to replace your flashes, because I don't think they make them anymore.
Yeah.
This disc does what a flash does. These are that's a couple comparisons I didn't make. These are really close to like a flick or a flash. Super beefy, super overstable. These would be good options to replace your flash with. Let's see, a couple more questions before we get out of here. Somebody asked us what our favorite brand of plastic is.
No. Like, you can't pick a favorite. You can be a fanboy. You can be, I'm only going to throw this, but you're missing out, dude. You're totally missing out. Don't, like, pick, if you're going to have a favorite run, have a favorite plastic, have a favorite disc itself. But don't say, oh, I'm only ever throwing Dynamic. I'm only ever throwing Innovo. I'm only ever throwing Prodigy. You're going to miss out on so many great discs. Like, we get to throw all this stuff, guys. Half of the time I'm like, I could have a purpose for this in my bed. And it's not like, oh, you know, I don't like the stamp on it. I'm not going to put the, no. When you throw it, the stamp doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of, if it works for you, throw it. Again, we work here and we sell everybody, so I'm not going to tell you that I like one brand over the other. There are some brands that I prefer, but I've got Innova in my bag, I've got Legacy in my bag, I've got Discraft in my bag, I've got Full Turn, which is a small company we haven't talked about yet, in my bag. I've got Dynamic and Latitude in my bag.
Potential MVP, Streamline.
Potentially I'm going to have some Streamline in there. I've had an Axiom disc in there in the last year. I've had Westside discs in there in the last year. I'm not a sponsored pro, so I'm going to throw what works for me. But if you want to sponsor me, anybody out there, sure, I'll take your money. But that's kind of my thing, is like, unless someone's paying you money to throw only their stuff, throw what works. I tried to go pure brand at one point, but I couldn't replace my Zone. I like my Zone too much. And again, like, unless someone's giving you money, I'm all about, if you want to be brand loyal, if you like that, if you like what a certain company is about, like if you live in Emporia, you should probably throw all Trilogy just because you live in Emporia. But I'm all about brand loyalty and those kind of things, but I throw what works, man. That's what I love about this review series, is it lets me throw everything new and coming out, and I can decide if I want it or not. Alright, so again, check out the Criminal, check out the Fighter. If you need a beefy, overstable disc, they're great for that. Not great for a lot of anything else. They do that, and they do that well. So let's see. Anything else that we want? Apparently I was wrong about what the flash is. So disregard what we said. I thought it was really close to a flick, but apparently it's not, according to Tim Smith. So maybe not. Alright, a couple more questions before we go away. Chris wants to know what the next review is.
The next review,
we've got a couple things on the way. Here's what we have filmed so far. We have the Archer from Discraft. We have the Rock X3. What else did we film, Steve? We've got the Latitude Overload stuff, the Gobi, the Bryce, and the Seric. We're going to do those together at some point. I'm working on a couple of special tweaks that we might have for you guys, and I was going to do them next week, but depending on how some stuff works out with my friends at DD, we might push that back to the week after. So I think that's all we have filmed right now. We haven't filmed the Full Turn stuff yet. So that's what we have. We've got plenty of new stuff. Like, if you guys missed out earlier, this is new stuff that came in today. Not just other new stuff that we have already. This is new stuff we got in boxes today. So we've got the Axiom Mayhem, the MVP Teleport, which are both pretty straight to slightly understable drivers. That bomb that we've thrown like 8 times and we love them.
Yeah.
We've got the Westside Fortress, which is a overstable control driver that I like a lot. So that'll be coming up soon. We've got new Prodigy, which we're definitely going to have a special guest for the Prodigy review. So look forward to that. It's going to be soon. This is the X2 and the X4. They look like 11-speed drivers. The X2 is definitely more stable, but they're both got some nice turns, some solid fade. The X4 is more turn because it's a 4, not a 2. That's how Prodigy works. Higher numbers, more turn. We've got, and these are the special editions that we just got in. We won't be reviewing these because they're too expensive to throw. But we've got the special edition Teleport, the special edition Skullboy Mayhem, sweet Trifoil stamp, and the special edition Traces with the sweet Ace of Trace stamp. These are awesome. These will be on the website Friday-ish. Check them out. So we've got a lot of stuff coming up. Likely next week's review is going to be the overmold stuff from Latitude. We're really excited about that. I really like a couple of those molds. And then we've got to get the Archer and the Rock X3 in at some point.
Yep.
But we've got a lot of stuff. I've got a whole bag in I have like a bag full in my car of things that we need to review. So check us out. Sorry we were a little late today. We had some technical difficulties in a company disc golf round that got us distracted. But generally Wednesdays at 5. Check us out. Ask us questions. I'll be on Facebook talking back to you guys. Anything we didn't answer. Yeah, I'll answer any of the other questions we can get to later. This is great with Steve and Nate. Check us out every Wednesday at 5. Steven, any final thoughts?
Again, if you guys have any questions about the disc that we just did, anyone's from the past, or you're like, oh, I saw that other disc that you guys just got in, can you do that next or something? We're up for it.
Yeah. Anything that you think would make this better? I know we got a guy, Wayne, I think his name is, wants us to do full screen video. I've got a program that does that. I just have to learn how to use it. I want to. It would make this look so much cleaner. It's going to be cool once we make it happen. It's coming. But any suggestions you have to make this better, we're doing this for you guys. It's an excuse for us to throw new plastic, but we're doing it for you. So anything that will make it better for you guys, let us know. Winners, the guys who won, hit us up at service@distore.com or send us a Facebook message, and we'll get that out to you as soon as we can. Get out and play more disc golf.
All right, y'all. Catch you next week.
See you guys.